He got rejected 50 times, by jobs, by people, by life itself. But what happened next? No one saw coming. Before we get into this powerful story, take a second. If you believe that rejection doesn't define your future, go ahead and hit that like button right now. And if you're someone who's chasing a dream, no matter how hard it gets, make sure you subscribe to this channel, because this is where we share real stories that push you to never give up. Also, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. How many times would you keep going before quitting? Be honest. Now, let's get into the story. In the heart of Detroit, Michigan, where abandoned factories stood as reminders of lost opportunities and broken dreams, 24-year-old Marcus lived in a cramped one-bedroom apartment above a struggling laundromat. It was the year 2021, a time when the world was still recovering from economic uncertainty, jobs were scarce, and competition was ruthless. For many, survival was the goal. For Marcus, survival wasn't enough. Marcus wasn't born into opportunity. Raised by a single mother who worked double shifts at a hospital, he grew up watching exhaustion become a normal part of life. Bills were always late, sacrifices were constant, and dreams felt like luxuries they couldn't afford. But from a young age, Marcus carried a quiet determination. He didn't just want to escape his situation. He wanted to change it completely. The problem was nothing seemed to work. After finishing community college with average grades, Marcus entered the job market with hope. He believed hard work would be enough, but reality hit hard. His resume was overlooked. His experience wasn't good enough. His skills weren't impressive enough. One by one, the rejection emails came in. At first, he stayed optimistic. Then 10 rejections came. Then 20. Then 30. Each one chipped away at his confidence. By the time he reached 50 rejections, something inside him started to break. It wasn't just about jobs anymore. It felt personal, like the world had already decided who he was, and he didn't matter. Every morning, Marcus would sit at his small kitchen table, laptop open, staring at another application form. The silence in the room felt heavy. Outside, the city moved on, cars passing, people working, life continuing. But Marcus felt stuck, like he was watching life happen for everyone else except him. His friends began to move forward. Some found stable jobs. Others settled into routines. Conversations changed. The gap between Marcus and the life he wanted grew wider. Even his mother, though supportive, started suggesting he be realistic. That word hit harder than rejection. Realistic. To Marcus, it sounded like giving up. But reality didn't care about his dreams. Bills were piling up, rent was overdue. His savings, what little he had, was disappearing fast. The pressure wasn't just emotional anymore, it was survival. One night after receiving his 50th rejection email, Marcus didn't react the way he usually did. No frustration, no anger. Just silence. He stared at the screen longer than usual, the same words, the same outcome, over and over again. That's when a thought crossed his mind. What if the problem isn't them? What if it's me? It was a painful realization, but also a powerful one. Because for the first time, Marcus stopped blaming the system, the economy, or his circumstances. Instead, he looked inward. What did he actually have to offer? The answer wasn't much. And that truth changed everything. Instead of sending another application, Marcus did something different. He closed his laptop. The next day, he didn't apply for jobs. He started learning. With no money for courses, he turned to free resources, videos, articles, anything he could find. He chose a skill that businesses needed but most people ignored: digital marketing. It wasn't glamorous, and he had no experience. But it was a starting point. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. There were no guarantees, no income, no recognition, just effort. Marcus spent hours every day practicing, failing, improving. He built fake projects, tested ideas, learned from mistakes no one saw. While others were moving forward in traditional ways, Marcus was rebuilding himself from zero. But the journey wasn't smooth. Doubt didn't disappear, it grew louder. What if this doesn't work? What if I'm wasting time? What if I fail again? Those questions haunted him, especially at night. But this time, Marcus didn't stop, because something had shifted. Rejection no longer scared him. He had already faced it 50 times and survived. Slowly, he began reaching out, not for jobs, but for opportunities to help. Small businesses, local shops, anyone who would listen. Most ignored him, but not all. One small business owner gave him a chance. No pay, just trust. Marcus gave everything he had, and for the first time in a long time, something worked. It wasn't big, it wasn't instant success, but it was proof. Proof that he wasn't the failure those 50 rejections made him feel like. Proof that maybe, just maybe, he was building something bigger than a job. Standing outside that small shop one evening, watching customers walk in, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Not the kind that waits, the kind that acts. Because those 50 rejections didn't end his story. They redirected it. And what came next would change everything. Marcus stood there for a long moment, watching people walk in and out of that small shop. Something so simple, yet so powerful. For the first time, he wasn't on the outside looking in. He had contributed to that. In some small way, he made a difference. But reality didn't pause for hope. When he got back to his apartment that night, the same problems were waiting. Bills stacked on the table, his phone buzzing with payment reminders. The weight of survival hadn't gone anywhere. One small win didn't erase months of struggle. Still, Marcus made a decision. He wasn't going back to sending job applications. Not after everything he had learned. Not after proving, even in the smallest way, that he could create value. The next morning, he doubled down. He reached out to more businesses. Restaurants, barbershops, clothing stores, anywhere that looked like it needed help. Most didn't respond. Some rejected him immediately. Others said they couldn't afford to pay. It felt familiar. Rejection, again. But this time, it didn't hit the same. Because now, Marcus had something he didn't have before. Proof. So instead of asking for money, he made a different offer. Let me help you for free. If it works, then we talk. That changed everything. A few more people said yes. Not many, but enough. Marcus threw himself into the work. He studied each business like it was his own. What were they missing? Why weren't customers coming? What could be improved? He made mistakes, plenty of them. Some ideas failed completely. One business saw no results at all. Another stopped responding halfway through. Each failure tested him again, reminding him of those 50 rejections. But Marcus didn't stop. He adjusted, improved, tried again. And slowly, results started showing. A local barber shop got busier. A small clothing store began making consistent sales. A struggling cafe saw new customers walk in for the first time in weeks. These weren't miracles. They were results of effort. And people noticed. Word started spreading, not loudly, not instantly, but steadily. One business owner mentioned him to another. A friend told a friend. His name began to move quietly through the same streets where he once felt invisible. But with growth came pressure. Marcus was no longer just learning. Now people expected results, and expectations are heavier than rejection. He started getting small payments, nothing life-changing, but enough to keep going, enough to believe that maybe this path could work. But just as things began to stabilize, everything nearly fell apart. One of the businesses he worked with, a larger client compared to the others, suddenly pulled out. They blamed poor results, even though the real issue was internal mismanagement. Still, the damage was done. They spoke negatively about Marcus. And in a community where reputation spreads fast, that was dangerous. Calls slowed down. Messages stopped. Opportunities disappeared almost overnight. It felt like starting over. Again, sitting in his apartment, staring at his laptop, Marcus felt that old feeling creeping back, the one he thought he had left behind. Doubt, fear, exhaustion. What if they were right all along? The same question, the same silence. But this time, something was different. Marcus didn't break. He paused. He looked back, not at the failure, but at the journey. From 50 rejections, to learning a skill from nothing, to helping real businesses grow, to earning his first income on his own terms. That wasn't failure. That was progress. Real progress. And progress doesn't disappear because of one setback. That night, Marcus made another decision. He wasn't going to quit. But he also wasn't going to keep doing things the same way. If he wanted to move forward, he needed to level up. Not just his effort, but his thinking, because surviving rejection made him strong. But adapting after success? That would make him unstoppable. And what Marcus didn't know yet was that the moment everything seemed to fall apart was actually the moment everything was about to change. Marcus didn't rush back into work the next day. For the first time since he began this journey, he slowed down, not out of defeat, but out of intention. He needed clarity, not just on what went wrong, but on what needed to change. He realized something uncomfortable. Up until now, he had been reacting to opportunities, reacting to problems, reacting to rejection. But if he wanted to grow, really grow, he had to start thinking ahead. That shift changed everything. Instead of chasing random clients, Marcus began building structure. He reviewed every business he had worked with, what worked, what didn't, where results came from. Patterns started to appear. Certain strategies worked consistently, others didn't. For the first time, he wasn't guessing. He was understanding. He turned those patterns into a simple system, something repeatable, something he could rely on. But there was still one problem. No one knew. His past work had helped people, but it wasn't visible. It lived in conversations, in results, in quiet wins, but not in a way that built trust at scale. So Marcus did something that felt uncomfortable. He started sharing. He documented everything, before and after results, lessons learned, even his failures. He posted consistently, even when no one responded. At first, it felt pointless. Views were low, engagement was almost non-existent. But Marcus kept going. Because this time, he wasn't looking for quick results. He was building something long-term. Days turned into weeks again. And then, slowly, it happened. One post gained attention, then another. People started asking questions. How did you do this? Can you help my business? For the first time, opportunities didn't come from asking. They came from visibility. Marcus responded to every message. He refined his system even more. This time, he was selective. Not out of ego, but out of focus. He chose clients he knew he could help. He worked smarter, not just harder. Results came faster now, stronger, more consistent, and with consistency came credibility. That one negative voice from the past? It started fading, replaced by new voices, clients who saw real results and weren't afraid to say it. But the biggest change wasn't external. It was internal. Marcus no longer saw himself as someone trying to escape rejection. He saw himself as someone who had built something valuable. That confidence showed in everything: his communication, his work, his presence. Months passed. His income stabilized, then grew, then surpassed anything he had imagined during those days of rejection. The same apartment that once felt like a trap became a reminder of how far he had come. One evening, Marcus sat at that same small table where he once opened rejection emails. This time, the screen looked different. New messages, new opportunities, new problems, but better ones. He leaned back, thinking about everything that had happened. 50 rejections, 50 moments that felt like failure. But now, looking back, they weren't failures at all. They were redirections. Each no pushed him away from a path that wasn't meant for him, and toward one that was. Marcus smiled, not because everything was perfect, but because he finally understood something most people never do. Rejection doesn't define you. It reveals you. It forces you to adapt, to grow, to find a path you might have never considered. And sometimes, it takes 50 rejections to realize you were never meant to fit in. You were meant to build something of your own. From that point on, Marcus didn't chase acceptance. He built value, and in doing so, he became the person no one could ignore anymore. Marcus's journey didn't slow down after that. It evolved. Success, he quickly realized, wasn't a destination. It was a new level of responsibility. More clients came in, bigger ones. Businesses outside of Detroit began reaching out. Some had larger budgets, higher expectations, and far less patience. The stakes were different now. One mistake wouldn't just cost him confidence, it could cost him everything he had built. But Marcus wasn't the same person who once feared rejection. He had faced worse. Still, this new level brought a different kind of pressure. Deadlines became tighter. Decisions carried more weight. His time, once abundant, became his most limited resource. He found himself working longer hours again, not out of desperation this time, but out of demand. And that's when another challenge appeared: burnout. The same drive that pushed him forward now began to drain him. Late nights returned. Meals were skipped. Sleep became inconsistent. He was building something real, but he was also exhausting himself in the process. One night, sitting alone in his apartment, Marcus noticed something familiar: the silence. Not the same silence of rejection, but the silence of realization. He had built something valuable, but it depended entirely on him. If he stopped, everything stopped, and that wasn't sustainable. Marcus leaned back and asked himself a question he had never asked before. What if success isn't about doing more, but building something that works without me? That thought changed his direction again. For the first time, Marcus stepped back from doing everything himself. He started documenting his process, every strategy, every step, every system that worked, not just for himself, but so others could follow it. Then came the hardest part: letting go. He reached out to people, just like he once was, hungry, overlooked, waiting for a chance. He trained them, guided them, trusted them with small responsibilities. At first it was messy. Mistakes happened. Things didn't run perfectly, but Marcus stayed patient because he saw something in them. The same determination he once had. Slowly, things began to shift. Work was no longer dependent on him alone. His small operation started to feel like a team, a real system, something that could grow beyond one person. And with that growth came something new: freedom. Not just financial freedom, but mental freedom. Marcus finally had space to think bigger. He began exploring new ideas, expanding his reach, helping more businesses in ways he couldn't before. The impact grew, not just in numbers, but in lives changed. But what meant the most to him wasn't the money. It was the moments. Like the day one of the people he trained told him, "This changed my life." That hit deeper than any success he had experienced, because Marcus realized something powerful. He didn't just escape rejection. He created opportunity for himself and for others. One evening, he walked past the same laundromat his apartment sat above. The city hadn't changed much. The streets still carried the same stories, the same struggles. But Marcus had changed. He stopped for a moment, looking at the building. That small apartment where he once sat, counting rejection emails, questioning his worth, it was still there. But he wasn't the same person who lived in it. Because now, he understood something most people spend their whole lives chasing. Rejection isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your real one. And sometimes, it takes being rejected 50 times to finally become the person who doesn't need approval at all. Marcus thought the hardest part was over. He had survived rejection, built something from nothing, created stability where there once was none. For a while, it felt like he had finally figured life out. But growth has a way of testing you when you least expect it. As his business expanded, so did the complexity. More clients meant more moving parts. More team members meant more responsibility. And with that came something Marcus had never truly faced before: leadership under pressure. It wasn't just about results anymore, it was about people. Different personalities, different expectations, different levels of commitment. Some of the people he brought in started losing focus. Others made costly mistakes. A few even left when things got difficult. And every time something went wrong, it came back to him. Not as a worker, but as a leader. For the first time in a long time, Marcus felt overwhelmed. There were moments he questioned everything. Am I really built for this? What if I've gone too far? The same doubts, just at a higher level. But this time, Marcus didn't try to go back. He leaned in. He realized something important. Every level of growth comes with a new version of pressure, and avoiding it meant staying the same. So instead of pulling away, he stepped up. He started learning again, not just skills, but leadership, communication, decision-making, how to guide people, not just manage tasks. He had difficult conversations, set clearer expectations, made tough decisions, even when they were uncomfortable. Slowly, the chaos began to settle. The team became stronger, more aligned, more focused. And Marcus? He became more confident, not because things were easy, but because he learned how to handle them when they weren't. Months later, his operation had transformed again. What once started as a desperate attempt to survive had now become something structured, something stable, something scalable. But the biggest transformation wasn't the business. It was him. One afternoon, Marcus received a message that stopped him for a moment. It was from a company he had applied to months ago, one of the 50 rejections. This time, the message was different. They wanted to offer him a position, a well-paying job, stability, security, everything he once chased. Marcus stared at the screen, remembering how badly he once wanted this exact opportunity. But now, it felt different. Not because the offer wasn't good, but because he had outgrown it. He smiled, closed the message, and declined. Not out of arrogance, but out of clarity, because the version of him who needed that opportunity no longer existed. He had built something bigger, something that didn't depend on approval. Standing by his window later that evening, looking out at the same city that once made him feel small, Marcus reflected on the journey. 50 rejections, 50 moments that tried to define him, but instead, they refined him. They forced him to grow, to adapt, to become someone capable of building his own path. And in the end, the greatest victory wasn't success. It wasn't money. It wasn't recognition. It was this. He no longer needed someone else to choose him. He chose himself. And that changed everything. Because sometimes the reason you get rejected over and over again is because you were never meant to fit into someone else's plan. You were meant to build your own. And Marcus? He didn't just prove them wrong. He proved to himself. That rejection was never his weakness. It was his advantage all along. Marcus thought that was the end of his journey. The rejection, the struggle, the growth, the success, it all felt like a complete story. From being overlooked and dismissed to building something meaningful on his own terms, it made sense to stop there. But life doesn't end when you succeed. That's where a new story begins. Months turned into a year. Marcus's business continued to grow, not explosively, but steadily. Stronger systems, better clients, a more reliable team. He wasn't chasing anymore. He was building. But with time came something unexpected. Perspective. The further he moved away from those days of rejection, the more he began to understand them, not as painful memories, but as necessary moments. One afternoon, Marcus was invited to speak at a small local event in Detroit. It wasn't anything big, just a room filled with young people trying to figure out their next step, just like he once was. He almost said no. Public speaking wasn't his thing. He wasn't the type to stand on a stage and tell his story. But something made him accept. Standing there, looking at that room, Marcus saw himself in them. The uncertainty, the doubt, the quiet questions no one talks about. He paused for a moment before speaking. Then he said something simple. "I got rejected 50 times. The room went silent. Not because it was impressive, but because it was real. He told them everything. The struggle, the nights of doubt, the moments he almost gave up, the shift that changed everything. No exaggeration, no shortcuts. Just truth. And when he finished, something unexpected happened. People didn't just clap. They stayed. They came up to him, asked questions, shared their own struggles. Some even said, "I feel like that right now." In that moment, Marcus realized something deeper than success. His story wasn't just his anymore. It was something others could see themselves in. That night, walking back through the same streets that once felt heavy with failure, Marcus felt something different. Not pride, not relief, purpose. Because everything he went through, the rejection, the struggle, the rebuilding, it all meant something beyond him. It gave him the ability to show others what was possible. Years later, Marcus would still remember those 50 rejections, not as something painful, but as the foundation of everything he became, because without them, he might have taken the easy path, the safe path, the path that never would have pushed him to grow. And if there's one thing Marcus understood at the end of it all, it was this. Rejection isn't there to stop you. It's there to redirect you, to force you to look deeper, to push you beyond what you thought you were capable of. Because sometimes, life has to say no to you again and again, until you finally stop asking for permission and start building your own way forward. So if you're in that place right now, if doors keep closing, if it feels like nothing is working, remember, Marcus, remember the 50 rejections. Because what feels like the end of your story might actually be the beginning of the one that changes everything. They rejected him 50 times, but they only needed to be wrong once. The question is, will you quit or will you become unstoppable? Please subscribe, like, and share, and don't forget to drop a comment. Thanks so much.